I read this article early this morning about the surge in startups in Spain. This is a Bloomberg story. You can check it out yourself. Startups fill void left by Spain's 26% unemployment rate. And the unemployment rate for youngsters is about 50%. So you're having a tremendous increase in the number of people starting their own businesses. Why are they starting their own businesses? Because nobody will hire them. And here's an interesting statistic. It says in this article that I think something like 55% or 53% of Spanish companies have no employees. Zero. So all these entrepreneurs that are starting companies, they're not going to hire anybody. So why is that, right? Why is it so difficult to get a job in Spain? Well, because Spanish politicians have promised so much to workers, employees, to get their votes that they have destroyed the initiative of anybody to hire anybody. Let me go over just some. This is some of the requirements. If you want to hire somebody in Spain, this is just some of what you have to deal with. First of all, Spain does have a minimum wage law, which is 752.85 euros per month. And the most you're allowed to work is 40 hours a week. Overtime is not allowed. Now, let me add to you some of the costs, because there is a payroll tax in Spain. The payroll tax is 31.6% of the first 36,000 euros that you earn, which, $50-something thousand. And the employee pays 6.4%. So we got a 12% payroll tax in America, 15%. They've got a 38% payroll tax in Spain. So if you factor in the payroll tax that has to be paid, the minimum wage goes up. Now, 435 euros is about $582. If you factor in the payroll tax, the real minimum wage in Spain is $7.38. But if you factor in the fact that per capita income is 50% higher in America than it is in Spain, to put it all in relative perspective, the minimum wage in Spain is the equivalent of like $11.50 an hour in the United States. So clearly, the minimum wage is quite high, and so a lot of people are rendered unemployable just based on that minimum wage. But it gets worse. If you hire somebody between mandatory vacation days and national holidays, you have to give each employee 44 days off with pay. So if you want to factor in what the minimum wage is, you probably have to kick in at least another 10% for all the paid holidays, which would bring the minimum wage higher than 12.5 an hour. But 44 days paid vacation. That's what, a month and a half off? Now, if your employee gets sick or is injured, they can take an 18-month sick leave. And during that time, you have to pay them 70% of what you were paying them if they were actually there and working. 70%, they can take 18 months off, and you have to hire them back at the end when they're not sick anymore. So what do you do in the interim? You can't hire somebody, to take the spot, because now you're going to be stuck with the laws on them. So, you have to hire maybe a temporary person. Also, if maternity leave, you get up to 16 weeks maternity leave. Apparently, that's paid for by the government, not the employer. But you still got to, save their job for 16 weeks. And in some cases, if you got twins, if there are complications, it can extend to way beyond 16 weeks. Now, also, it is illegal to discriminate or harass your employees based on their sex, religion, race, disability, ethnicity, age, union membership, or political ideology. And if the labor authority finds that an employer did harass or discriminate, they can be fined by this body. This is not a court. It's a labor, right? Your employee makes an allegation, and there's an administrative finding. You can be fined anywhere between 6,251 euros all the way up to 187,000 euros. That's over 200 grand. So you hire some guy, they make an allegation that you didn't treat them right, and you could end up with a $200,000 fine? Who needs that? Then in addition, if one of your employees who makes this allegation against you, right, and then it's proven or it's not proven, and you have to go and, maybe you're fine, maybe you're not, But if you retaliate in any way, such as you don't promote them when they feel they're due for a promotion, they can drag you back in front of that tribunal and you can get fined again. And if you want to fire one of your workers, you got to give them 15 days notice. If you have a valid reason for firing them, you got to give them 20 days severance pay for every year they've worked. I mean, that adds up to a lot. I think it maxes it out as a year pay. But that's if you have a valid reason. If you don't have a valid reason, you got to pay 45 days severance pay for every day they've worked. And of course, there's another tribunal to determine whether or not your reason is legitimate or not. And by the way, if the person is being eliminated because of a merger or because you sold your company, it's automatically unfair, and you got to pay 45 days severance pay for each year worked. This is onerous. This is just the beginning. There's more. Why, you'd have to have your head examined to hire somebody in Spain, which is exactly why there's no jobs and why everybody has to create their own job, because nobody will create one for you because of the politicians, because they wanted to get the votes of workers. So they made it so punitive to hire somebody. They gave workers so many benefits and so many rights that nobody will hire anybody. And so all these jobs have disappeared. And you want to wonder why there's 25% unemployment in Spain, 50% for young, less skilled people. Now you know. Are you going to hire somebody in Spain if, you might hire them and a month later they get sick and now you have to pay them 70% of their salary for a year and a half while you hire a replacement worker and then deal with that? Are you going to hire somebody if they can then allege that they were discriminated against or harassed, and you can end up with a $200,000 fine? I mean, come on. I mean, do they really expect people to hire people in Spain? And basically, they've really made it almost illegal to hire somebody. I mean, basically what they've done, right? Because, who's going to hire somebody given how risky and how dangerous and how expensive it is? Clearly, the most dangerous, riskiest, stupidest thing you can do in Spain is hire somebody. And so as a result, very few people make that mistake. And now you have all these people who have to start their own businesses and create their own jobs because nobody else will do it for them. And of course, the people who get hurt the most are the people who don't have the initiative and the skills to start their own business. And so they live forever on a very generous welfare system that they have in Spain. Conveniently, they make it hard to work, but then they coddle you if you don't. That's why the whole situation is disintegrating. And we are just following in their footsteps. The only difference is degree. We're doing the same thing. We're just not punishing you quite as much if you hire somebody in America as the Spanish government punishes you if you hire people in Spain. But here's an example of the government trying to make put more punishments or more conditions on employment. Barbara Boxer speaking on the Ed Schultz show about the minimum wage. Here she is, cut number 1.
We need to raise the minimum wage. That will make a huge difference out there. People are struggling. The difference between the very wealthy and the working poor has grown. We raise that minimum wage and we move forward with the vision of this president that we have, which is everyone pays their fair share. We make investments where it matters. We're going to be. What
would you move the minimum wage to,
Senator? It's going to be a great
Senator?
century for us.
Give me a number. What would you move the minimum wage to?
About $10. About $10.
Now we have heard.
I think that would be right.
Yes, because she knows what the right wage is. The market doesn't know. Barbara Boxer, in her divine wisdom, has been able to figure out what the appropriate wage should be. Of course, she says that it would make a big difference. It would. A lot of people would be unemployable at $10 an hour who are still employable right now at the current minimum wage, whatever it is, $7.50, or I forget exactly what the current federal minimum wage is, although it does vary too. A lot of states, like California, where she's from, they have a higher minimum wage. They have a higher minimum wage in Connecticut than the federal minimum. Some cities actually have minimum wage. San Francisco, I think, has a minimum wage even higher than the states. So sometimes you have the local politicians that are adding insult to injury. We talked yesterday extensively about internships. And, the main reason that we have so many unpaid internships is because of the minimum wage. Without the minimum wage, you would find internships that were paid something. Maybe they'd be $2 an hour, $3 an hour. But that's illegal. And up until recently, it was illegal to pay a trainee a low wage. but it wasn't illegal to pay them no wage. So what was happening because of government is people were working for free instead of getting a wage that was considered too low, but they were getting a wage of zero. Well, now the government has eliminated that. Basically, you cannot hire somebody below the minimum wage, nor can they work for you for free, which will even pull more, rungs off the job ladder for more people. So now they will have destroyed. First, they destroyed low-paying internships, and now they're going to destroy no-pay internships. I've got some interesting sound on this topic, though, from Senator Barbara Boxer from years ago. This is, not Boxer. This is Nancy Pelosi. This is from 2008, where she is being questioned about the fact that she has interns working for her that work for free. Yet she is trying to impose minimum wages on other people, yet she pays her own interns zero. And she's asked to explain that apparent hypocrisy. It's a very interesting discussion. We'll start it with cut number 23.
How much do you pay your interns?
Well, it depends on the program that they're part of.
But how much do they get paid?
They don't get paid by the hour. They get paid to come in, say, for a summer or something like that.
What is their hourly rate? Is it below minimum wage?
It isn't an hourly rate. It's a stipend for a period of time that they come in.
But calculated.
But they do fine now, many of them would come in and be interns as part of their education.
All right, so she's backtracking. She's trying to say, well, they're not paid hourly. It's a stipend, but she still hasn't said what that stipend is or what they're getting paid. Here, cut number 24.
So you paid all of your interns more than minimum wage when they work here?
Those who have come here to work for a stipend. Some have come as part of their school program where they get credit for working in an office.
And how much you pay them?
If they come in, if some of them come in and as they say, it's part of their school, they are not getting paid. They're part of their education is to work with us, and we train them in what we do here in government.
Okay, so in other words, these are young kids who don't have a lot of skills, so they work and they don't get paid, but they do work, but in exchange for working, they develop skills. So in other words, people are working. She's getting the value of their labor, but not paying them anything. In exchange, she's helping to educate them with real-time work-related experience. Oh, gee, what's wrong with that? Here, cut number 25.
Didn't you say that all services were worth at least $5.15, and here there is a service that's being rendered to you personally, which you are not compensating at all?
No, I said to you earlier, unless someone decides that they want to volunteer. And you cannot underestimate the volunteer effort.
So if somebody wants to volunteer to work for McDonald's at $4 an hour, is that all right?
No,
or is that illegal? Is that illegal? You would prosecute that person, right?
No, I wouldn't prosecute them, but I don't think that people don't go to work for McDonald's for nothing. They go there because they need to make a living. But if somebody wanted to make the decision that they were willing to work for McDonald's at $4 an hour, it was in their best interest, that would be illegal, would it not? No, it's not a question of being illegal.
Would it be illegal
I don't think that McDonald's would want them there. They would be responsible for them.
Well, first of all, I don't know what she's talking about. McDonald's wouldn't want to hire somebody for $4 an hour. She's obviously trying to duck the question. And she claims that it's okay for her to pay less than the minimum wage because, after all, the people working there gain something from the experience, and therefore they're gaining something more valuable than money. Now, of course, if any private company tries to make the same argument and they say, look, I don't want to pay them minimum wage, I want to pay them less, because they're gaining some valuable on-the-job training, well, Nancy Pelosi would say that's illegal. It's illegal for somebody else to do it, but it's perfectly legitimate if I do it. And that is, of course, the classic definition of hypocrisy, and Nancy Pelosi is a hypocrite. Anyway, here's some more of this discussion. I think the next clip, what's the next one in order? Is it 27? Play whatever one is next.
But if McDonald's had a program where they had, in order to be a McDonald's employee, you had to be an intern and work without pay for a month, would that be illegal?
I'm not sure. I don't know. McDonald's, is under a separate law called the Kroc law.
Well,
it's a separate law. They're under a separate law. Well, I think all of them are under that law.
Pancake House. It doesn't matter. Any employer that's hiring minimum wage earners, if they had a program where everybody that had to work for a whole month for free as an intern first before they hired them. Would that be illegal?
Yes. In my view, it would be. I think they should pay them as they train them.
In your case.
All right, so she says she thinks that McDonald's should pay people the minimum wage as they train them, but she doesn't think Congress should have to pay anybody while they train them. Now, what is the difference? Why are we going to treat government employers differently than we treat private sector employees? Why is experience in the government valuable, yet experience in the private sector is somehow worthless? Here's some more of this. Let's play the next cut.
What's the difference?
Well,
is it that you're a congresswoman and that they are private enterprise?
No, but if you talk about the Red Cross, if you talk about the Catholic Church, the Methodist Church, the Baptist Church, if you talk about any organizations where people want to make a contribution, whether it's to their country or to their church or whether it's to their community, and they have the right to do that.
Or to their private enterprise, like McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, right?
Well, I think it's an absolutely silly example.
Well,
if I may be so bold,
I
think it's silly. I think it's silly. I don't. It's a waste of time.
Let's see
what you're saying is a waste of time.
So I don't think it's silly at all, but what she's saying is that if you work for government, you're making a contribution, or if you're working for a church or a charity. But if you work for a private, for-profit company, you're not making a contribution to anybody. That shows you how much she values the free enterprise system. This is continuing. Let's play the next cut.
And let me say this. Anytime we have these young people come in, and we have a great deal of competition among the young people who want to come in, because they want to learn about government, they want to get credit for their, and they want to get credit
some
for
of them
their
you
courses.
hire and you don't pay them minimum wage, right?
No, we do pay the minimum wage.
All of them?
We do pay the minimum wage.
All of them?
We do. There are some people who do not want to have, they want to come and go because they want to be here 1 hour a week to work on a specific issue. So they may not meet the standards of getting a stipend of a certain scholarship.
Okay, so now she's saying they don't want to be paid. Of course they would accept payment. I mean, they want the job, even if it means no pay. But obviously, if they had a choice between would you like to have the job and be paid, or do you want the job and not be paid? If they gave them the choice, of course, they would all accept the money. To say that they don't want to be paid is nonsense. The reason they're not paid is because the government doesn't have to pay them, because there's a big supply of people willing to work for free. So free markets apply to the government when they want to hire, but they don't apply to anybody else. Let's play the next clip.
So you don't pay them all minimum wage.
You know
so
what?
those
Let me say
services,
this, because I have to go now. I have to go now. I believe
you are not willing to pay $4.25 an hour.
I want to say this directly into the camera.
See,
I have tried to make myself available to the bottom line, rational solutions.
Well, let's get to the bottom line.
And I believe that there is in this country a large body of people who devalue the work of people who work in the system. Some have come to me and said, you'd be surprised what profit we could make if only we had very low wages. I said, no, I wouldn't be surprised.
Are you
I wouldn't be surprised.
I give you a chance to
so I
comment.
have made myself available. I have answered your questions.
No, you have evaded
I have to go. Now I have to go.
You have evaded the questions.
And I think that you came into our office under a false pretense.
Yes, under a false pretense. What? Maybe he pretended he was going to ask her layups, and now he's actually got a reporter asking serious questions, and now that's false pretenses, and now she wants out, and he's correct. She hasn't answered the questions. She has evaded answering the questions, and because she's getting serious questions about something that she doesn't want to talk about for obvious reasons, because it exposes her hypocrisy, she wants to get out. Here's the final clip. Let's play it. Cut 30.
Let me give you what I think is the bottom line.
Please,
let me give you what I think is the bottom line.
Half an hour is up.
You refuse to answer the questions. I just want to tell you what I think is the bottom line.
You really made a mistake. You really made a mistake. You made a mistake.
Why did I make a mistake? What is the mistake?
Because I think that if you wanted to have a discussion about the minimum wage, you would have asked your questions. We would have moved to other aspects of it.
Let's discuss it.
But you have one question through it. I don't have any more time. That's it. My time is up.
You think that it would harm you to answer my questions?
This interview is over. Would you please dismantle your cameras?
Excuse me. Do you think it would harm you?
Terry?
You think it would harm you to answer my questions?
Terry, will you call the guard? Because this interview is over. Okay?
You're going to call the guard on us?
No, I'm just telling you, it's over now. You either accept the fact that the interview is over or not. Okay? The interview is over.
You don't want to answer the questions.
No.
See, that's easy. If you don't want to answer any questions, you just call the guards and throw the guy out. I mean, she says if you really wanted to have a discussion on minimum wage, you wouldn't have asked me all these poignant questions about why I don't pay my own workers anything and why I want other people. I mean, this is very pertinent because it seems to me that Nancy Pelosi reveals her understanding of the situation where when you have young people who you have to train on the job, and they are getting valuable training, that they don't necessarily need to be paid the minimum wage. And in her case, she doesn't think she needs to pay them anything. Anything. You know, Nancy Pelosi has a congressional budget. She has the ability to change the budget and maybe take some money away from her higher paid people and pay more of it to these exploited interns that she seems so concerned about. See, she's only concerned about the people who are exploited by other people. She doesn't give a damn about the people that she exploits herself, although she proves that she understands that it's not exploitation. So if she understands that, if she understands she's not exploiting her interns, she must understand that other companies like McDonald's would not be exploiting people if they paid them less than minimum wage. Then why does she support those laws that she doesn't even abide by herself? It's because of politics. She knows it's harming the economy. She knows that. But it's good politics because the labor unions want it because it destroys competition from lower wage people. And it sounds good. It sounds like she's protecting workers, like she's giving people something for nothing, even though she knows it's harming workers because it's denying them the ability to get some on-the-job training. Let me go to the phones. Troy is on hold from Bellevue, Ohio. He's got a point on the minimum wage. Go ahead.
Hey, Pete. I used to have my own construction company back in the 90s, and I had anywhere from 10 to 15 employees. Some of them were part-time, but never did I pay them minimum wage, although I could have. But I had to compete with other contractors who were paying their guys $10, $12 an hour. So I had to pay that because that's what the market wanted. But that's not where I stopped because I had my few core guys who were very productive members. And I knew that if I paid them a little more, they were still making me a profit. So I never needed the government to come in and tell me what I needed to pay my guys. I know what I needed to pay my guys because of what the market expected. And the guys who were making me more money, I had no problem paying them more money. So this whole crap about that we need to raise minimum wage and that's going to help the economy, I don't know where the government gets off thinking that they're the ones who know what's best to decide what we should be paying everybody.
Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi, or is it Nancy Pelosi? I think it was earlier when I played the Barbara Boxer clip. I think it was Barbara Boxer, or if I forget, now I'm mixing them up. But one of these women said that, companies can make huge profits if they just paid even lower workers, as if the key to making bigger profits is squeezing all the blood out of your workers. That's just obviously not true. I mean, if companies could increase their profits just by slashing what they pay their workers, everybody would do that. The fact of the matter is sometimes you increase... Yeah, let me finish my point. Sometimes you increase your profits by paying your workers more, because by incentivizing your workers with higher pay, they'll work harder for you. You'll attract the most talented and the most capable employees. And so a lot of times the way to increase your profits is to pay your productive people more, not less. But Barbara Boxer somehow thinks that every business can simply, cut everybody's wages, and if it wasn't for government, we'd all be working for sub-minimum wage, and all the profits would be gouged out by the evil employers.
Yeah, that has always been my theory, and I always ran a very profitable construction business, and I always based what I paid my guys on by how productive they were. And if I had a bunch of productive guys and I had to pay them a little more to keep them on, you know what, it wasn't even necessarily sometimes the bottom line. It was the peace of mind. How about going to bed at night knowing my guys were going to show up for work, and when they went to work, they were going to do a good job, and my customers were going to be satisfied. That's what it comes down to. But
yeah, in fact, that's why Henry Ford was paying his workers $5 a day when the prevailing wage was much lower than that. It was because he wanted to retain his key workers. He spent a lot of money and time training them. He didn't want them quitting. He wanted to know that those production workers were going to be on the job every day. And the way he made sure that nobody quit was by paying them more money than they can get working anyplace else. And because he did that, he made tremendous amounts of money for himself, but he did it by paying his workers more than his competitors, not less. And the government didn't mandate that. He did it on his own. We got a break. We'll be back. Hey, one thing, I got to play some sound. Apparently, President Obama is considered a good sport because of how generous he is with other people's money. Yeah, it's easy to be generous with other people's money. We're going to play a clip about President Obama's generosity with taxpayers' money. After this, we'll take some more calls. Stick around.
Punchline, a joke when the smoke on the front lines gets your sunshine choked and you just feel like whatever, man, I'll never get better. Forget it, I just need to get it together.